Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Everyone, welcome into the program. Today on the show we have computer and technology news, and we have a ton of different articles that cover today and yesterday as well. But they're all recent, they're all fresh, and hey, everyone, we hope that you're having a great week. So before we get started, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, including past shows, future shows, all the shows, everything you need to know will be right there on the site. While you're there, also check out the social media links, check out the contest, articles, reviews. We keep that updated with anything that we do here. And hey, computeramerica.com. That's all you need to remember. Now, why don't we go ahead and get started with computer and technology news? And that is brought to you by Computer America. Here we go. So a ton of different stories that we could do, and I kind of want to do some from yesterday that really caught our attention. Let's go ahead and talk about this one. This one about Blue Origin. And, it's not every day that you see a company offering NASA money. Usually NASA's the one that hands out money and awards people contracts to, help with the whole space exploration thing. And, turns out that Jeff Bezos is taking a bold step, and who doesn't have $2 billion to hand over to a government organization to try to get Blue Moon, which seems to be a moon project by Blue Origin, off the ground, so to speak. Now, this one from Engadget, and they're saying that Blue Origin offers NASA $2 billion in a last-ditch effort attempt at lunar lander contract. Very strange. I've never really heard anything like that, but hey, I guess it's all about the prestige, the clout, and I guess getting your foot in the door, assuming that's that's something that you really need to do. And actually, I'm curious real quick what the entirety of NASA's budget is for, let's just take NASA budget for 2021, for instance. Yeah, their entire budget for the entire fiscal year of 2021 is $23 billion. So this is almost like, 9-10% of their entire funding that NASA does. And Jeff Bezos is like, yep, I'll pay you guys to do it. So let's see what the story is. So they're saying that after returning from the edge of space, Jeff Bezos has personally waded into Blue Origin's dispute with NASA over its decision to award a $2.9 billion lunar lander contract to Elon Musk's SpaceX. In an open letter to NASA Administrator Bill Nelson, Bezos said his company is willing to waive up to $2 billion in payments from NASA in the current and next federal fiscal year in return for a fixed price lander contract. Bezos says Blue Origin is also willing to fund its own Pathfinder mission to low Earth orbit. This offer is not a deferral, but it's an outright and permanent waiver of those payments. So, it's spread over 2 years. But still, it's straight up $2 billion worth of saving, which is a lot that NASA could definitely do with it. They're mentioning that this Bezos said in a letter, this offer provides time for government appropriation actions to catch up. And while Bezos spends a significant part of his letter talking about Blue Origin's commitment to advance America's future in space, his offer isn't altruistic. I would certainly, say that it's not. It's, to some people, I mean, especially diehard NASA fans, I'm sure that they're, kind of thinking, well, hey, this is a great way to, kind of shore up the bottom line for NASA, and it could really help them out. They're mentioning that at the heart of it is the belief that NASA unfairly excluded his company from a lucrative and prestigious contract. And prestigious, I think, is probably the bigger part of this one, because if you can actually get a NASA contract and again get your foot in the door, that opens you up to a lot more government funding and a lot more government programs that you would then be eligible for. Now, they mentioned that when it comes to the most important projects, NASA has historically handed out agreements to multiple contractors to promote competition and ensure it can get a mission off the ground on time if one company falls behind schedule. In its latest procurement, NASA didn't do that, and Blue Origin filed a protest with the federal government shortly after that. Okay, I can kind of see his point, but to be able to do that, and this is something that I'm going to talk about in a minute, but man, that's a lot of money. At the time, a Blue Origin spokesperson told Engadget NASA executed a flawed acquisition for the Human Landing System program and moved the goalpost at the last minute. That's something Bezos reiterates in his letter. Instead of investing in two competing lunar landers as originally intended, the agency chose to confer a multi-year, multi-billion-dollar head start to SpaceX. That decision broke the mold of NASA's successful commercial space programs by putting an end to meaningful competition for years to come. Meaningful competition, I guess, would be the super important point here, in that NASA doing something out of the ordinary. I mean, hey, times are changing. I'm sure that their administrators are doing this as best they can, but the big loser here is obviously going to be Blue Origin and Amazon and Jeff Bezos. He's just hoping to kind of lock in that multi-billion-dollar contract, and he's willing to give up. To him, if he can offer $2 billion and in return get a guaranteed $3 billion contract, that $3 billion doesn't just go straight into Bezos's pocket. He still has to pay his workers. He still has to pay for all the material and research, but still, this is investing money in the future Blue Origin. This is almost guaranteeing that Blue Origin would have a valuable and very honorable customer in the form of NASA, which is like the best customer you can have if you are a space flight company. Now, it's hard to say how NASA will respond to the open letter. The Human Landing System project can't move forward while the U.S. Government Accountability Office reviews the protest from Blue Origin. Notably, this isn't the first time that Bezos' affiliated company has got itself into a contract dispute with the U.S. government. They also mentioned the whole JEDI program that was scrapped. And it was supposed to be awarded to Microsoft, but they actually scrapped the whole thing, and they were looking to do a multi-vendor program instead of just awarding Microsoft $10 billion flat out from the U.S. Department of Defense. Still, all that put together, as I understand it, space companies, while not unnecessary, very clearly we need to send up satellites. We need to be able to ferry things into orbit. GPS is getting so much more crucial. Satellite internet is starting to become a thing. The ability to send payloads to space is something that is going to be very important in the coming years and the coming decades. But it's very cutthroat, very competitive, very expensive, and I think that's where Jeff Bezos is really coming in to save the entirety of the program, because I'm not sure, it's hard to compete with the PR arm of SpaceX. They get free publicity for doing, everything that they do. And Blue Origin is definitely riding their coattails. And then, of course, Virgin Galactic is, making a wave here and there. But by and large, as far as private companies go, it's not profitable by any means. And to keep the whole thing from going belly up, Blue Origin has to start securing these projects. They have to start being, the ones that NASA actually turns to instead of just SpaceX. So I feel like that's why he's doing it. But I also want to say that I feel like I'm going to remember this article. I'm going to remember the fact that Bezos is willing to, waive $2 billion from his bottom line, from Blue Origin's bottom line, if it means that NASA is going to choose them. Whenever wage disputes, whenever workers' rights, whenever anything else comes, like clearly they are willing to, make a sacrifice for the betterment of the company as they see it. And I feel like paying their employees or letting them be a little bit less efficient, if that means that their quality of life can go up, it's very not, it's very much not what Jeff Bezos and Amazon are known for, but yeah, it's clearly they're willing to make a sacrifice somewhere, and it should not be too much to ask that they, raise their minimum wages or treat their workers with dignity. Yeah, that's just, how I'm going to take that whole story. Now, that was story number one. Story number two, we have a ton of different ones that we could definitely do. This one I'm probably the most interested in today, and that's about Intel. Intel's going through a major shift right now, and whether you think that AMD is just going to, beat them into the ground, if you think TSMC is just going to outproduce them, well, Intel finally has has a hardware guy instead of a business guy at the helm, or so people claim, and it's hard to argue that the shakeup at the higher levels of the company aren't having a real effect with their new roadmap. Intel has famously been very behind when it comes to their latest chips, and while they're squeezing every bit of juice out of the processors that they currently are manufacturing, that doesn't mean that there aren't innate benefits to the 7-nanometer chip that everyone else is using, the 5-nanometer chips that they're starting to produce. You can't just stick to the 11 or 14 nanometer chips that Intel is currently working with. So to kind of leapfrog and to, get back to the top of the hill, Intel is looking at, kind of a little bit further down the road, and things are looking exciting because some of those numbers I just rambled off, 7 nanometer, 11 nanometer, 14 nanometer, it doesn't really get much smaller than that. Clearly, when you get down to 1 nanometer, you're pushing up against the laws of physics. Well, looks like Intel is starting to think along those lines and realizing that, yeah, we're heading into an even more detailed processor. And it's really exciting to hear that they're already looking at, what are they called? They're calling them the A's. So it's like Intel 20A, which stands for, I want to say like altimeter, but I don't want to say if it's altimeter in particular. But yeah. Okay, so they're saying that this is an article from Engadget. And actually, it's probably up here somewhere. Yeah, either way, we'll find it in the article. Now, forget about Superfin Enhanced, the previous name for the node powering Intel's upcoming 10-nanometer Alder Lake processors. Now that node is just called Intel 7, according to the company's revised roadmap. And they have the roadmap linked here. And I'm actually super keen on getting them on the show to talk about this. It's it's really exciting to always hear about new processor technology. Now, but don't go thinking that means Intel is somehow delivering a 7nm processor early. Its long-delayed Rocket Lake 7nm chip still won't ship until 2023. Still some time off. And its node has been renamed to Intel 4. Confused? It's almost like Intel is trying to attach a new number to these upcoming products, so we'll forget it's losing the shrinking transistor war against AMD, which is fair. It's clearly a marketing tactic. It's a little underhanded by Intel. But yeah, hey, you have to make roads somewhere. But Intel's prospects are more interesting as we look ahead to 2024, when the company expects to finalize the design for its first chips with transistors smaller than 1 nanometer, which is something that we have not really heard of before. Up until this moment, I think it was IBM had made the first produced 3 nanometer chip, I want to say, or 1 nanometer. It was literally like 3 nanometer. It was super, super small. And that innovation was just a couple of months ago. And Intel, while Intel has not developed these things yet, they don't exactly have them in production, they are planning to do it. And hey, that's a start. They're definitely looking ahead. Now, they'll be measured in angstroms, so ANGSTROMS. So when you hear Intel 20A, that is the new measure, or that is the new level of measurement, angstrom. Now, they say that the Intel 20A node will be powered by Ribbon FET transistors, the company's first new architecture since the arrival of FinFET 2011. So Ribbon FET to FinFET, and I believe that would be this picture if you're watching the video portion. We have it up behind me. They show all the people here and kind of keynotes, but I believe it's this image right here. This is Intel's new Ribbon FET technology. The company's implementation of a gate-all-around transistor is displayed as part of Intel's accelerated event on July 26th. So yesterday, at the event, Intel presented the company's future process and packaging technology roadmaps. And yeah, it's instead of one, and honestly, this is a technology that's been used in transistors and processors for a little while now, is because you can't really squeeze them kind of next to each other on a flat plane, but you can stack them on top of each other. And I believe that's what we're looking at here with this 3D mock-up, is that they are going to start stacking the transistors, not on big flat plates, but even to an even smaller degree, even more nanoscopic. And of course, that's going to be very, very hard to do and not, get a lot of noise and crossover. But hey, it shows actual innovation. Now, they say that it will be coupled with the power via, a technology that can move power delivery to the rear of a chip wafer, which should make signal transmission more efficient. It's very cool. And they have a quote here saying that building on Intel's unquestioned leadership in advanced packaging, we are accelerating our innovation roadmap to ensure we are on a clear path to process performance leadership by 2025. On a clear path to process performance. So they're saying that, they can... they've been a leader in packaging, but now they at least admit that they have ground to make up when it comes to the actual production of these things. And that was the CEO, Pat Gelsinger, said during the Intel Accelerated livestream, we are leveraging our unparalleled pipeline of innovation to deliver technology advances from the transistor up to the system level. Until the periodic table is exhausted, we will be relentless in our pursuit of Moore's Law and our path to innovate with the magic of silicon. Before it reaches the angstrom era of chips, though, the company plans a processor with an Intel 3 node in 2023. You can think of it as a super-powered version of the 7nm architecture with around an 18% 18% performance power watt improvement over Intel 4. It'll likely fill the timing gap between Rocket Lake chips in 2023 and Intel 20A products in 2024. Intel is also daring to call its shot beyond 2024. It's also working on Intel 18A node that'll further improve its ribbon FET design. Very, very cool. And yeah, this is really cutting edge, and it's nice. And don't get me wrong, it's great if they can achieve this. They have been behind on a lot of deadlines before. I don't know, and you know, there's been conflicting reports out there that it's management, it's funding, it's leadership styles, it's teams, it's being kind of pulled from one project to the next without actually completing projects. The actual cause for the delays in Intel's products, can stem from so many things, and they have had a shakeup. I'm hoping that whatever they did behind the scenes makes it so that their products actually arrive on time. Because they can promise the roadmap all day long, delivering on the roadmap, that might be a different issue. But I'm excited because it shows actual innovation from Intel instead of just trying to rely on their dominance in the sector and just kind of coasting along and saying that, well, research isn't as important as market availability and market share. That's a good change. Now, and this is all by DaVinci Hardware, by the way, he mentions that as we've previously argued, it's ultimately a good thing for the tech industry if Intel can finally regain its footing. Its $20 billion investment in 2 Arizona-based fabrication plants was a clear sign that Gelsinger aimed to bring the company into new territory. But now that it's laid out a new timeline, there will be even more pressure for Intel to not let things slip once again. And he also caps off the article by saying that for consumers, the roadmap means that you can expect chips to get steadily faster and more efficient over the next 5 years. If anything, the announcements today show that Intel is trying to move beyond the 10 nanometer and 7 nanometer delays that have dogged it for years. I hope they can. The innovation's good. The looking forward and having a clear timeline is great. It's not even like, we're still working on 7 nanometer. That's our goal. That's our goal, 7 nanometer. No, it shows now that they are looking for the 18 angstrom processor. They're looking even smaller than that, the sub 1 nanometer chip. And, they're going to put out improvements as best they can. Until you see actual benchmarks and roadmaps, Intel is clearly, they're still the fastest individual core processors you can get out there on the market, because even when they don't put out, something on a new die, they do get more efficient and their processes do get better. The reliability of the chips do improve time and time again. But the performance, the power consumption, the efficiency, all of that, AMD and TSMC have proved that they are more than capable at competing in slightly different sectors, but just as equally important. So Intel does need to regain its footing. It's very clear they have fallen behind their competitors. But that doesn't mean that Intel has to go, okay, we just need to catch up. No, they're actually looking to leapfrog ahead and say that, we see the future of chips and we just need to make that future happen. So again, I'm going to extend an invitation to Intel to come on the show after big announcements like this. It's always fun to have them on and explain exactly what they're hoping for, but it's exciting and it's definitely good to see. So yeah, and we'll also include the roadmap there in the show notes as well if you'd like to peruse that. It's seems to be kind of like a pretty much a rundown of the Intel Accelerated event that happened yesterday. Now, let's, so that was a lot of hardware, a lot of pie in the sky hoping. Let's bring it back down to earth a little bit and talk about Activision Blizzard. If you don't recall, they're having a bit of a shakeup, and from what I understand, there's rumors that there's no meaningful work happening there at the headquarters, which is unfortunate for a lot of their IPs and properties. But hey, you got to, you have to clean house. You have to make sure that your employees have a good work environment. And very clearly, this was something that shook the entire company to its core. And employees are taking note of this, where they're planning a walkout. This just came out about an hour ago, and they mentioned that Activision Blizzard employees to walk out following the sexual harassment lawsuit, and that staff will meet outside Blizzard's main campus on July 28th. And there's promises, there's wishes, and legal action. There are financial repercussions. There's so many ways that you could apply pressure to a company to change its work culture and work environment. But one of the best ways is obviously from within, and for employees to get organized and start to take action, which is what we're seeing here. And this could mean notable change for the immediate future. Activision Blizzard employees are staging a walkout on Wednesday, July 28th, so tomorrow, in response to the company's handling of a sexual harassment allegation brought by the state of California. Employees will meet outside Blizzard's main campus in Irvine and at 10 a.m. Pacific, saying that we believe that our values as employees are not being accurately reflected in the words or actions of our leadership. That's what the organizers said in a statement. The news comes after California sued the renowned gaming studio and its publisher, saying that women were subjected to constant sexual harassment and discrimination at the workplace. They mentioned that one female employee allegedly died by suicide after having photos of her passed around the office. Following the suit, numerous employees took to Twitter to detail additional examples of harassment and discrimination, and the former president mentioned, "I am extremely sorry that I failed you." That was Mike Morhaime. The company denied the allegations, saying the lawsuits was merely irresponsible behavior from unaccountable state bureaucrats that are driving many of the state's best businesses out of California. And that's a very strange dichotomy that's going on between the statements of, kind of the nameless, faceless Activision Blizzard and the actions and response from, kind of the best known people within Blizzard and from Blizzard in the past. And it's also very important to note that, even if they don't work for Blizzard currently, because a lot of high profile people actually left Blizzard over the past year or two, but even if they're not current members of Blizzard, it's important to hear from former members of Blizzard because these allegations lead back years and years and years when their tenures were still happening. Now, they mentioned that the company denied the allegations, as we said, and I was just about to make the point that Activision Blizzard, the company, says that these are baseless and they'll fight them, and it's all just a huge misunderstanding. But the actual people, they're saying that the words and the stories and the accounts, they're at least doing the proper thing and not saying that, oh, these are all fabrications, all these women are lying, or all these stories are false. They're saying, clearly we have been disconnected from our workplace. We thought that we had, an environment that was supportive and fostering, but it was actually very toxic and mismanaged. And so it's nice to at least see the individuals come out and respect the findings of the report, even if the company itself is saying it's just, it's all just false. They mentioned that more than 2,600 employees have signed a letter that have been condemning the company's response. Now employees are putting forward 4 demands as part of the walkout. And this is the important part. What is actually going to change and what do people want to see changed? Now, the 4 The 4 points: 1, an end to forced arbitration clauses in all employee contracts, a change Google employees successfully fought for in 2019. So that seems more like a tech industry basic. Amazon, not too long ago, also ended forced arbitration for not just its employees, but also its customers. So forced arbitration in general, I think, just needs to go away. The fact that you are putting an individual at odds with a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate has never been a fair practice. Maybe having two mediators and people sit down and try to work things out works when you have two equals, but yeah, these companies are by no means equal to individual employees. So I think that's completely fair. And again, something that is not unusual in the tech industry at this point. So an end to forced arbitration. 2, new hiring and promotion processes to increase representation across the company. I know some people don't like the idea of purposely hiring to increase diversity. That means more minorities, more more women, more more transgendered, more people of from just that aren't traditional, because they even mentioned that 75% of Blizzard employees are men, and the vast majority of those are white men, which Silicon Valley has had a problem with for decades. That means that something needs to change, and I guess the employees are looking to actually speed that up. It doesn't mean that anyone has to lose their job. It just means that going forward, not just and I've heard this argument so many times, like, just take race in general off of the off of employment. Off of recruitment websites, off of applications, take it all off and just base people on their merits. But no, equal opportunity employer and employers that actually promote for diversity need to be taking their hires into full context, because people are more than just their GPA, they're more than just their degrees. It is part of that, yes, their degrees, their capabilities, but it's also who they are as a person, their background, and actually valuing other parts of a person than just what is the highest degree that you got, because that's how you end up in a situation like we have over in Silicon Valley. So I think that's completely fair, and would actually lead to a much better company. They say that employees say that the current practices have led to women, in particular women of color and transgendered women, non-binary people, and other marginalized groups that are vulnerable to gender discrimination, not being hired fairly for new roles when compared to men. There you go. So a more fair in hiring and promotion process. 3, the publication of salary and promotion data for employees of all genders and ethnicities at the company. That's something that would be truly groundbreaking, and something I feel like every one of these super large companies do, that they need to start doing. In that, not talking about your salary, NDAs, swearing people to secrecy, that they'll never talk about how much money that they're making, how much money that the company is paying. I know that a lot of people of older generations kind of see salary as something that needs to be hidden. It's confidential. It's almost like improper or rude for some reason. I'm sure that reason has to do with the idea that that's essentially telling people how much money you make, and it's exactly that. But yeah, it's how much money you make, what you can afford, the state of your finances, almost like personal, private information. But what it really does, after you get over the shame, for some reason, of working a good job and being paid what you assume is a reasonable salary, people can then look on a list and see, well, who's actually earning the money? Are one of my colleagues earning more? And, should I be getting compensated more or less for equal work? whenever these policies have gone into place, yeah, people who were getting paid less get paid more, and the people who are currently being paid, I don't think a lot of them actually take pay cuts. That's not something that reasonably happens, because they can always go find new employment elsewhere. And for Blizzard in particular, who has been very notable, notorious. That's the word, notorious, for actually paying their staff less than other people within the same industry. Number 3, if that gets through, that would be a huge improvement, a huge step in the right direction. I would be shocked if it were to actually happen. But, yeah, it totally should, though. A publication of everyone's salary and promotion data. So you know who's getting promoted, who's getting paid, and how much they're getting paid, all of it. That would be very, very good. Now, they say that number 4, their last point, allow a diversity, equity, and inclusion task force to hire a third-party organization to audit the executive staff, saying it is imperative to identify how current systems have failed to prevent employee harassment and to propose new solutions to address these issues. And that last one doesn't seem that bad either. Allow a third-party company that specializes in, kind of workplace health, which is what they're getting at. Clearly, something at the executive level was wrong for and that's what this report found, was that it was a expansive entire culture of kind of sexual harassment that permeated throughout Blizzard and Activision. Something needs to change, and bringing in a third party that can highlight what can be improved and to make actual changes, I don't think that's too bad. They're not saying that, everyone who's a C level and everyone immediately below C level needs to be out of there. No, they're just saying, let's find the root of this problem and let's work on it. These demands, they're huge. They would definitely shake up Activision Blizzard in a big way, and especially for such a large company and such a renowned company, and not to mention a multi-billion-dollar publicly traded company, that all of this would have immediate effects on their share price and so on and so forth. But I think that they're well thought out, and for having that list of demands, none of them are really that out of kind of nowhere. They mentioned that employees who can't attend the walkout in person are being asked to use the hashtag #ActiveBlizzWalkout to lend their support online. I look forward to tomorrow and seeing what exactly happens with the whole walkout, because as I said way at the beginning, the best way for companies to make that shift, because a big shift does need to happen. The best way for that shift to happen is for the employees to group together and to promote that change. That's super, super important. So I wish them the best of luck, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. We'll definitely talk about that tomorrow. Now, let's see. So that was story number 3. Story number 4. How about we talk about, I want a fun one. You know what? This one's fun enough. And if you're watching the video portion, we'll have this here. Yep. And you can see the image there. Deepfakes. I guess there's someone on YouTube who is, let's see. So he's been, so he's known as Shamook, SHAMOOK, and he uses deepfake technology to improve what the industry is doing. Now, I want to kind of preface this because, the article kind of sets it up. The title kind of gets people kind of starry-eyed, saying that Lucasfilm hires YouTuber who used deepfake to improve The Mandalorian. And if you know about The Mandalorian, they famously took Luke Skywalker, which is the face of oh my god, I'm actually blanking on his face. Hamilton, let's see. Yeah, not that. Let's see. That was, anyways, the face of Luke Skywalker, and he improved it. And again, you can see there on the video portion that, they added a little bit of shine to the eyes. The differences between the two are pretty pronounced. Just more detail. Kind of more lines in the skin. The lips look a little bit different. The lighting looks a lot more natural. And of course, to see it in motion, that's the important part. It's not even just so much seeing a picture and improving the picture. No, it's about actually improving the motion of it all. It definitely looks much more lifelike, I would say. Now, Luke Skywalker's CGI face in the character's The Mandalorian cameo was met with a lot of criticism, and fans even tried to fix the scene with various tools and programs. One of those fans did so well that Lucasfilm has hired him to help it ensure its upcoming projects won't feature underwhelming de-aging and facial visual effects. The fan is a YouTuber known as Shamook, who uses deepfake technology to improve upon bad CG effects and to put actors in shows and movies that they never starred in. So yeah, his YouTube channel was pretty much, or is entirely dedicated to replacing actors, improving CGI. But I want to be clear, Shamook, the gentleman behind the deepfake, he actually, he actually writes paper. Like he's a researcher. He's someone who kind of posts his videos online for people to look at, but he is an actual scholar, academic, an expert in the field. So it's not just someone who has a passion for deepfake and he's kind of working on it in his spare time. No, he's kind of uploading these things as he's writing papers for the advancement of the field in general. It's Now, in the comment section of a video that replaces Christian Bale with Robert Pattinson in the Batman and Christopher Nolan's film, Shamook wrote that he joined Lucasfilm Industrial Light and Magic a few months ago. When asked what his role within the company was, he said that his official title is Senior Facial Capture Artist. The studio has confirmed the hire with IndieWire, telling the publication that it's always on the lookout for talented artists. And they mentioned that over the past several years, ILM has been investing in both machine learning and AI as a means to produce compelling visual effects, and it's been terrific to see momentum building in the space as the technology advances. In addition to working on the deepfake version of Luke in The Mandalorian, he also deepfaked Tarkin's and Leia's appearances in Rogue One. Shamook's videos don't always show the most realistic results, but the great ones like Luke's truly look impressive, and Lucasfilm could use his technical know-how to make sure de-aged characters and CG faces won't take us straight to Uncanny Valley anymore. And yeah, that's yes, he's a YouTuber, but he's also a researcher, and he's very good at what he does. He's he's obviously very very keen on improving the technology as a whole. So I think that that's a natural fit and definitely a great pickup for Lucasfilm to hire this gentleman to be able to do that. Okay, that was that story. Let's go ahead and move on real quick to our next story. And I always like covering these stories because VPNs are often seen as the end-all, be-all of privacy. If you want privacy, get a VPN. And don't get me wrong, a good VPN provider can add a lot of security to your system, to your workplace, to just everything that you do. Now, here's one from Ukraine, where obviously VPNs are by definition all around the world. So it's hey, this could be anyone. VPN servers seized by Ukrainian authorities weren't encrypted. which is a big no-no. The company says it's in the process of overhauling its VPN offerings to better secure them. And by overhauling, that I guess that kind of just means that they're actually going to start providing the technology that they're already selling. This is by Ars Technica, and saying the privacy tool seller Windscribe said it failed to encrypt company VPN servers that were recently confiscated by authorities in Ukraine, a lapse that made it possible for authorities to impersonate Windscribe servers and capture and decrypt traffic passing through them. Which, if you didn't know, capturing and decrypting traffic is kind of the one thing that VPN servers are supposed to prevent. Yeah, there's that's like your what does that mean? Like you have one job, or you had one job and they failed at it. The Ontario, Canada-based company said earlier this month that 2 servers hosted in Ukraine were seized as part of an investigation into activity that occurred a year earlier. The servers, which ran the OpenVPN virtual private network software, were also configured to use a setting that was deprecated in 2018 after a security researcher revealed vulnerabilities that could allow adversaries to decrypt data, saying that on the disk of 2 servers was an OpenVPN server confiscated and its private key. And although we have encrypted servers in high sensitivity regions, the servers in question were running a legacy stack that were not encrypted. We are currently enacting our plan to address this. Giving them the keys to OpenVPN and essentially giving them the ability to impersonate these servers is a big deal, because that means that anyone who is hoping to keep themselves private, secure, safe, all that kind of thing, the Ukrainian authorities at least know what's going on. So Windscribe's admission underscores the risk posed by an explosion of VPN services in recent years, many from businesses few people have even heard of before, which is always why it's important to, keep using a VPN that is reputable, safe, tested, because actually running a VPN service, it's so easy. You own a server, you route the traffic through it, and as far as the end user is concerned, they really don't know. They have to trust their provider that they're actually doing their job. So if you don't use a reputable one, they could say they have servers all over the world, but then not only could they be doing nothing, but they could be doing worse. They could actually be capturing and selling your information to advertisers or to law enforcement. It's if you don't use a reputable brand of VPN, you're probably doing more harm than good, and you're definitely not doing good. Now, the VPN service then decrypts the traffic and sends it to its final destination. By failing to follow standard industry practices, Windscribe largely negated those security guarantees. While the company attempted to play down the impact by laying out requirements an attacker would have to satisfy to be successful, those conditions are precisely the ones VPNs are designed to protect against. Specifically, Windscribe said that the conditions and potential consequences are, and they have a list here, things to the effect of the attacker has to control over the network and can intercept all communications. You are using a legacy DNS resolver. The attacker has the ability to manipulate the unencrypted DNS queries. You are not using our Windscribe application, and that the potential impact for the users, if all of the above conditions are true, saying an attacker would be able to see unencrypted traffic, an attacker would be able to see the sources and destinations of traffic, and they would see encrypted conversations between the website and the end user. And they mentioned that it's important to remember that most internet traffic is encrypted inside your VPN tunnel. No historical traffic is at risk thanks to perfect forward security, and no other protocol supported by our servers is affected, only OpenVPN. Now, here's what I want to say in response to that. known vulnerability that happened back in 2018 meant that clearly they knew the Ukrainian authorities knew about the vulnerability. They captured the known weakened nodes or the known weakened servers, and they had control over them for who knows how long. So by them saying, well, an attacker would have to do this, and this, it sounds like the attacker, which in this case, again, is law enforcement did exactly those steps, and they had access to all of it. I think that now, obviously, Ars Technica went a step forward and, emailed Windscribe director and, kind of see what they're doing to improve it going forward. But he said he was unusually candid about the lapse, writing, "In the meantime, we make no excuses for this omission. Security measures that should have been in place were not. After conducting a threat assessment, we feel that the way that this was handled and described in our article was the best move forward. It affected the fewest users possible while transparently addressing the unlikely hypothetical scenario that resulted from the seizure. No user data was or is at risk," saying that the hypothetical situations outlined are no longer exploitable because the final CA sunset process was already completed last week. So they mentioned that it's not clear how many active users the service has. The company's Android app lists more than 5 million installs, and an indication that the user base is likely large. It's not a good look. I don't know if this company, if Windscribe can actually, come back from this. I will say something that I've never seen before. The person subject in the article actually came to the comment section in the Ars Technica article and mentioned, saying that, "Hi folks, it's the director here," addressing some of the comments, saying, "Why would forking WireGuard be preferable to just implementing it in their stack without proper maintenance? Wouldn't that mean their fork could deviate wildly from what's expected from a WireGuard implementation?" And they mentioned, there's several reasons for it. They want control over it. They want to be able to, have a single user config be deployed on every server. And WireGuard was never designed for millions of users scale, which is why these changes are required. This can be achieved out of band, but it's clunky, and they have it there. They mentioned that it's Ukrainian law enforcement. They probably did twist their arm till it broke, then pulled out the heat guns or sandblasters to make sure that they were being honest in their answers. And they mentioned that no arms were twisted. Someone allegedly impersonated a government employee and stole $10,000 from a Ukrainian social services agency. A year later, the servers were seized by local authorities. At no point did we ever hand over any customer data, so on and so forth. So again, being pretty open about it, that is the best response. I mean, failing to do your one job, you can't overlook it. There was a clear lapse of judgment and technical expertise that Windscribe displayed here. But I will say the director seems to be owning up to it. He's going everywhere he can to explain the situation, how it has affected people, and is trying to make amends going forward. I don't know if you should trust this company, but if there's a way forward, I feel like this director is doing the best that he can. So there you go. That's VPN service seized by Ukrainian authorities. Not encrypted. Very bad. Very, very bad. Okay. Man, we have so many articles. Like, I legit have like 15 articles here, and we have like 5 minutes left. So we'll do something as best we can here. How about we talk about Dell for just a moment? As if the graphics card problems weren't enough, as if, COVID and supply chain, messing up wasn't enough. Check this one out. Dell, out of California, is facing a new problem, one I had never heard of before. And it has to do with California state law, saying that Dell can't ship the majority of Alienware gaming PCs to California, Colorado, and other states due to power consumption regulation. Fun fact, Alienware fans who are interested in getting their hands on a new pre-built from parent company Dell might be out of luck depending on the state that they're in. As noted in practically every listing, Dell cannot ship the majority of its hardware to select states due to power consumption regulation that have been adopted in those areas. And the states affected include California, Colorado, Hawaii, Oregon, Vermont, and Washington. Only 2 Alienware configurations appear to comply with the power consumption regulation and can be shipped to all states, which is the Aurora R12 and the Aurora R12 and the gaming desktop and the R10. So the Ryzen Edition R10. And these are about $1,300 PCs. So if you take out the Alienware markup, it's probably like an $800 or $900 system. Not the most, because Alienware in particular can get up to like what, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. It's it can get pretty expensive. So those are some of the cheaper options, and obviously the less power intensive options. Now, with that being said, good on those states, and by the way, the article's pretty much done, but yeah, good on those states for implementing power consumption regulation. Clearly, if these things can be more efficient, they should be more efficient, and I'm all for moving the onus, moving the kind of the need to facilitate better equipment from individual consumers, because not everyone wants to learn how to make their system more efficient and, make everything just kind of run better. No, that should be done by the people making the systems in the first place. So good on these states for adopting these rules, and hopefully Dell and Alienware can come back and say, okay, we have made some changes and we can improve these things. And I hope that they do. So there's that story. We have time for one more short one. Okay, this is short enough. The real meat of the article is pretty much the title, in that Facebook and Instagram limit the ability for advertisers to target teens. In that Instagram will start setting younger teens, so anyone under 16 by default. So it's 13 to 16 because you can't be, preferably can't be under 13 to have an account. But yeah, 13 to 16, their accounts are private by default. It's perfect. Instagram said that the early test, 8 out of 10 young people accepted the private default setting during sign-up, and suggesting that the change could lead more teens to have non-public accounts. I think most, if not all, accounts should honestly be private. It's it's very strange how, unless you are a celebrity, an influencer, or one of these, why would anyone have a public account? It's just leaking information to people that you don't know, and if you do know them, then hey, follow them, add them, communicate. It's very, very strange. Now, with the change, advertisers will no longer be able to use interest or information gleaned from the services to show ads to Facebook, Instagram, and Messenger's youngest users. The change won't prevent advertisers from reaching teens at all. They can still use broad demographic information like age, gender, and location, which, by the way, age, gender, and location, still a huge amount of data, especially location. Still a huge amount of data that probably should be looked into. But the update will prevent more granular data from being used, including information from third-party websites and apps. Essentially, if you've ever signed in with Facebook from, on your computer or phone, and then you browse something, normally, if let's say you're 14 years old, you sign in with Facebook and you start shopping for clothes, then that information would be packaged up, sent back, and sold to advertisers that, this person likes band t-shirts, this person likes these kinds of dresses, this person likes this kind of clothing, and hey, that's actually kind of really illegal to do for someone under 18, especially under 13, but that was the way of the world before this. Good changes, very slow on the uptake. I expect nothing less from Facebook to be the last one to make these changes, but they're good changes altogether. Now, for teens who do opt for public accounts, Instagram is making it more difficult for adults they don't know to interact with them. The company says that it has developed new technology that makes it easier to identify potentially suspicious behavior in adults who could pose a risk to teens. Catching, let's face it, probably weirdos or pedophiles. Catching weirdos or pedophiles, good, you know? Hey, get them the heck out of here. But making every account safer and making the ability to block, ignore, or, stay away from these weird accounts is probably the more correct move. So again, slow to act, but they did act, so kudos where kudos are necessary. And according to Instagram, adults flagged as potentially suspicious will be blocked from following teens or commenting on their post. These adults also won't see content from teens in any form, so that's definitely good. Everyone, we're flat out of time. Thank you so much. Have a great day. We'll be back tomorrow. We should have Scott Schober on the program here. Everyone, until then, have a good one. Bye-bye.